Love has no edges. No walls. No definition. But when it arrives, you know it. Elena sat by the window of a quiet cafe tucked into a cobbled street in Prague. Autumn leaves danced like little secrets across the pavement. She held a warm cup of coffee between her palms, the heat rising slowly to her cheeks. To any passerby, she might have looked content. Peaceful. But her thoughts were far from calm. She was 35. A book editor. A woman who had read 100 love stories, edited 1,000, but still couldn't quite understand what love truly was. Not because she hadn't felt it, but because it always felt different. She'd loved in her 20s. That kind of burning, all-consuming love that feels like it could swallow the world. Mark, his name was. An artist. Wild, unpredictable, with eyes that never looked straight at you but always seemed to see through you. They had met at a gallery opening, shared one bottle of red wine too many, and fallen into each other like waves crash into cliffs, sudden, violent, inevitable. But it didn't last. Love, she realized, can burn too hot. It can destroy as much as it creates. Mark needed chaos to feel alive. She needed quiet. He called her predictable. She called him lost. Eventually, they stopped calling each other at all. Years passed. Love came again, softer this time. Lucas, a university lecturer. They met through mutual friends and took long walks by the river, shared books, and found comfort in silence. He understood her routines. They folded laundry together. Cooked on Sundays. It felt like a partnership, a gentle, steady kind of love. But then came the stillness. The kind that feels too still. Too quiet. "We're best friends," he said once, his voice too calm. "I think we stopped being lovers," she replied. They parted on a rainy Wednesday. No fight. No fire. Just silence, like a book with the last page missing. So here she was now, in this cafe, alone but not lonely, trying to answer a question she had asked herself many times. What is love? Was it the fire of Mark or the calm of Lucas? Was it wild or safe? Did it need to be both? As she watched the rain begin to dot the pavement, a young couple entered the cafe. They were laughing, a kind of raw, unfiltered laughter that seemed too loud for the space but too real to ignore. He shook the rain from his coat. She tried to brush water from her hair, and he caught her hand mid-motion. A small, tender moment. One that made Elena smile. Love was that, maybe. 1,000 small moments that no one else notices. She remembered her parents, how her mother would always cut the crust off her father's toast even after 30 years of marriage. Or her best friend, who had cared for her sick partner through years of treatment, never once complaining. Love didn't always look like movie scenes or passion on rooftops. Sometimes it looked like care. Patience. Showing up again and again, even when it was hard. Elena opened her notebook and wrote. Love is not one thing. It is many. It is the ache in absence, the joy in presence, the safety of silence and the storm of passion. It is not perfect. But it is real. And it changes us, always. Just as she closed the notebook, a voice interrupted her thoughts. Excuse me, is this seat taken? She looked up. A man, perhaps in his late 30s, gentle face, eyes full of stories. There was something honest about the way he asked, not urgent, not desperate. Just present. No, she said, offering a polite smile. Go ahead. He sat down, ordered a tea, and pulled out a book, one of the very novels she had edited. She stared for a second, then smiled again, deeper this time. Maybe love didn't arrive with fireworks or grand declarations. Maybe it walked in quietly, asked if the seat was free, and brought with it a new chapter. They didn't speak much that first hour. Just two people, sitting in the same moment, sipping warm drinks, while the rain painted poetry on the glass. Elena didn't know his story yet. He didn't know hers. But maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something. Not the end of a love story, but the beginning. Elena sat by the window of a small cafe tucked between the narrow streets of Prague. Autumn had already painted the city in shades of gold and rust, and the wind outside carried leaves like scattered pages from forgotten stories. Inside, it was quiet. The kind of quiet that lets you hear your own thoughts. She held a warm cup of coffee between her palms, not drinking, just feeling. Steam curled upward, soft and slow. Around her, people came and went, laughing, talking, scrolling. But Elena watched the window. As if expecting something. Or someone. She was 35, a senior editor for a publishing house, and by all definitions, she was doing well. A good apartment. A job she didn't hate. Friends, though distant. But something had been missing for a long time. Or rather, something had always been there, just out of reach. Love. The word felt worn to her now. Not in a bitter way. But like a book you've read so many times you can no longer tell where the story ends and where memory begins. She'd known different kinds of love. The first was wild, Mark. A painter, passionate and unpredictable. He spoke in metaphors and kissed like he was saving her from drowning. They met when she was 24, both reckless with youth, believing that love had to be loud to be real. They made promises they couldn't keep. Fought like it meant something. Loved like it would last forever. It didn't. Mark left one spring morning, his canvas and clothes stuffed into a borrowed car. He left a note on her kitchen counter. No explanation. Just. I don't know how to love without burning everything down. Elena spent months trying to read meaning into those words, like they were lines in a novel she hadn't edited correctly. But love, she learned, isn't a story you can revise. Years later came Lucas, gentle, patient, quiet. He was the opposite of Mark. A university lecturer, a man of structure and morning routines. He made her feel safe. Loved her in the way a warm room feels after being out in the cold. They shared meals and Sunday markets. They planned vacations instead of futures. And maybe that was the problem. I think we've stopped being lovers, she said one evening, not out of anger, but exhaustion. We've become comfortable, he replied. Too comfortable. They parted on a rainy Wednesday. No fight. Just an acknowledgement of a love that had slowly fallen asleep and never woken up. Now, in this cafe, Elena sat alone but didn't feel lonely. She felt observant. As if life had become a classroom and she was just a student of it all, still learning what love truly meant. Across the room, a couple argued, not loudly, but with that intensity that said they cared too much to stay quiet. A minute later, they were laughing. The woman reached over the table and touched the man's cheek. He kissed her hand. 1,000 stories happened in that one moment. And Elena smiled. Maybe love wasn't about being understood. Maybe it was about trying to understand, over and over again. She opened her notebook, the leather one she carried everywhere, and wrote. Love is not a single thing. It is many things. A storm. A lull. A spark. A silence. It is the ache of missing, and the joy of returning. It is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It is not flawless. But it is honest. And in its rawest form, it transforms us. She paused, then underlined the last line. A shadow fell across her table. Excuse me, came a voice, soft but certain. Is this seat taken? She looked up. A man, maybe late 30s, rain in his hair, a calm kindness in his eyes. There was no urgency in his tone. Just presence. No, she said. Go ahead. He sat, ordered tea, and pulled out a book. One she had edited. She almost said something, I worked on that, but held it in. There was a strange intimacy in knowing something someone else didn't know yet. They didn't speak much that first hour. Just sat. Two strangers on parallel pages. He read. She wrote. The cafe breathed around them. Outside, the rain softened. Love, she thought, might not always arrive with lightning. Sometimes it arrives in silence. Sometimes it doesn't demand to be noticed, it simply asks if the seat is taken.